So we have come to the end of Chapter 4, and I wanted to take a little bit of time to review with you the things that you're going to encounter on the test. I want to review what we've gone through in this chapter. So by this point, you should have received an email with an attachment, and that attachment should have your Chapter 4 study guide. So I want to walk through this with you real quick, give you some ideas of what kinds of things to expect to see on the test, what kinds of problems I'm talking about, and I also have a couple of problems that have been obviously ones that there have been a lot of struggles with in the homework, so I want to just take a few minutes to go over some of those types too. So this video here is going to help you in studying for the test. Make sure that you spend some time studying on your own though. Go through your notes, look at your homework, take a look at the notes that I sent you back from your homework. Sometimes it was just little small mistakes that are really easy for you to fix. Sometimes there was a main concept that kept coming up that you need to spend a little bit more time on. So go over those, go over your notes, go over the homework, and then let's take a look at this together. So the first thing on here, know the different ways to classify a triangle by its sides and angles. So we've got acute, obtuse, and right. Those are ways to classify a triangle by its angles. And then we've got scalene, isosceles, and equilateral. And those are ways to classify a triangle by its sides. So acute, obtuse, and right. Acute would mean that all three angles are less than 90 degrees. Obtuse would mean there's one angle bigger than 90 degrees. And a right triangle would mean there's just one angle that has 90 degrees. The other two would obviously be acute then, but it has one 90-degree angle. Then we've got scalene, would refer to the sides of the triangle. Scalene would mean that there are no sides the same length. Okay, each of the three sides is a different length. Isosceles would mean that two of the sides are the same length. Equilateral would mean all three sides are the same length. Remember also with equilateral, if all three sides are the same length, all three angles will also be the same measure. And with isosceles triangle, since two of the sides will be the same length, two of the angles will be the same measure, the base angles. Base angles will be the same in an isosceles triangle. So you'll need to know what those above terms mean, and I've just gone over that, and then how to draw a triangle based on its classifications. Okay, so I could ask you a question, like the first thing here, I could give you a triangle and I could say classify this triangle by its sides and angles, and you might have to say, oh, that's an acute isosceles triangle, or that's a right scalene triangle. But I also might give you two of the terms and ask you to draw a triangle based on the classifications. I could say, can you please draw an obtuse scalene triangle? Can you draw an equilateral acute triangle? So you would have to be able to put those two together, see if you can draw it. Some of these combinations you can't make, all right? But if you can make it, then try to draw it. Practice doing that. Use what you know about triangles, parallel lines, and angles to solve triangle or angle puzzles. I'm going to come back to this one. This was one that there were a lot of mistakes on the first worksheet that you guys worked on and you handed in this past week. So I want to go over that and give you some tips for some really common things to look for on those types of problems. Next thing, properly name two congruent triangles. Put the letters in the correct order. As several of you saw me write notes on with your homework this last week, letters need to be in the correct order. So the order of your letters does matter when you're naming congruent triangles. Or given the triangle names, list the congruent sides and angles. So the thing here is when we've got two triangles, let's say we've got triangle ABC is congruent to triangle XYZ, we need to be able to match these up and to understand that if it's written in this way, that angle A is congruent to angle X, angle B is congruent to angle Y, angle C is congruent to angle Z. And we should also be able to pick out sides this way. We could draw these. We could draw two triangles and label them ABC and label them XYZ as long as we put the corresponding letters in the correct positions. Okay. Side AB would be congruent to side XY. Side BC would be congruent to side YZ. And side AC would be congruent to side XZ. So again, it's important when we're dealing with congruent triangles that we make sure we're naming them with the letters in the same order. So depending on how you name your first triangle, you want to make sure that your second triangle is named with the corresponding letters in the same order. All right, another one here. Move this up. Identify which third piece of information would be needed to prove two triangles are congruent. You guys did pretty well with that on the worksheet. I am going to come back to that since I want to take a look at that worksheet. Also, state which triangle postulate or theorem can be used to prove two triangles are congruent. These are your postulates or theorems. We've got side, angle, side, angle, side, angle, 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 side, 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 and HL, meaning hypotenuse, leg. Memorize those. Memorize those for the test. You will have drawings. Again, I'm going to come back to this and give you some examples of what I mean. You'll have drawings that you'll need to be able to tell if one of these can be used to prove the triangles are congruent. There will also be proofs on the test. And some of those proofs will use these to prove two triangles are congruent. Know what a midsegment is and how a midsegment relates to other sides of a triangle. That was new as of last week, and I will show you an example in your book of what I'm talking about there. Mid-segments, again, remember mid-segments, we're going to use midpoints. So the midpoints in a triangle, if you connect them, form a mid-segment. The mid-segment is going to be half the length of the third side. It's also going to be parallel to the third side, and the third side refers to the side of the triangle that the mid-segment does not touch. So be able to draw it, be able to pick it out in a drawing. If I give you a piece of information about a measurement in the drawing, be able to tell me what one of the other measurements are, and we'll get into the formulas with that. But again, I'll come back to that. And then we've got distance, midpoint, and slope formulas, and I just mentioned that. So these formulas, I will give them to you on the test. However, I will not label them. I will not tell you this is the distance formula, this is the midpoint formula. So you need to be familiar enough with these three formulas that just seeing them, you know which is which. And also you need to know how to apply them. Know how to plug your ordered pairs, your points, into the x's and y's and your distance, midpoint, and slope formulas. And then we've got mark drawings with appropriate congruence marks. Guys, in your drawings and your homework, some of you are doing a really good job of this, and some of you could do better, and this could help you if you would mark your drawings. So I see that you're making your drawings for the proofs on your paper. If you mark your drawings up, okay, mark them with congruence marks. So if you've got sides that are congruent to each other, angles that are congruent to each other, make the marks on your drawings. When you make the marks on your drawings, it makes it easier for you to see what you have. It makes it easier for you to see what you don't have, maybe another piece that you need to get in order to say that the triangles are congruent. It also helps you be able to see, once you have enough information, which of these congruence postulates or theorems you can use, because you will very easily and quickly be able to see the marks and see, all right, do I have two sides and an angle? Do I have two angles and a side? What order do my marks go in? What pattern do they follow with these? So if you mark up your drawings, you're going to actually make it easier for you in the long run. Use triangle postulates or theorems to prove two triangles are congruent. And again, I've talked about that a little bit. Use CPCTC to prove corresponding parts of congruent triangles are congruent. And that's exactly what our CPCTC stands for. Corresponding parts of congruent triangles are congruent. It means after you've done this, so this goes first, this goes second, after you've proven two triangles are congruent in one of your proofs, then you can use this. Okay, so in your proofs, prove that the triangles are congruent, then the very next step, you can say any other parts that you need to prove are congruent, any other parts that you don't have marked, any other corresponding parts of those congruent triangles you can say that they're congruent because of CPCTC. Some of you are saying definition of congruent triangles. That's not exactly it. So again, you would have seen me put this on your homework, make these notes for you on your homework, that after you've proven the triangles are congruent, your very next step, you can say, now I know, oh, these two other angles are congruent, or these two other sides are congruent because of CPCTC. All right, now I want to go back to the idea of using what you know about triangles, parallel lines, and angles to solve some of these triangle and angle puzzles. So you guys have seen this. This was, so you can see it again, this was the Chapter 4 review that you got early on in the chapter. So you handed this in on Monday. You sent me your copies of this on Monday. So if you want to take this out and follow along, I'm going to go through real quickly how to figure out something like this, because you will see a problem on the test that's going to give you a whole bunch of lines, triangles, different angles that you're going to need to be able to fill in. All right. It's not going to be exactly like this, but some of these strategies that I'm going to show you here will be helpful to you on the one on the test. So the very first thing on a problem like this is I want to tell you don't have to go in order. You don't have to solve for these angles in the order. Like I have to find one first, and then two, and then three. You don't have to go in order. All right. The other thing is watch for supplementary angles. Depending on what I give you, maybe you might have vertical angles. If you have parallel lines, remember that parallel lines cut by a transversal are going to give you alternate interior angles or consecutive interior angles. Okay, write all over it. Once you fill something in, use that to help you find out something else. But also check your work, because here's one of the tricky things. If I get angle number 2 wrong and I use angle 2 to help me find angle 3 or angle 4, then the rest of my angles could be off. So you want to go back and check after you filled in everything. So taking a look at this, I would start probably with number 1, or I could start with number 5. But right here, I've got supplementary angles, right? 95 degrees and angle 1, those are supplementary. They're on a straight line. So if I add these two together, I should get 180 degrees. All right, so if I do a simple subtraction problem, 180 minus 95, 180 minus 95 should give me this angle here. That's going to be 85 degrees. And I can check it by adding them together. It should equal 180. Okay, so I've got this one, that's 85. Write it in here. Now I'm going to go over here because I see another set of supplementary angles. 145 and 5, those are also supplementary. So 180 minus 145 is going to tell me that angle 5 here, this is 35 degrees. Okay, then I'm just going to look around. What else is there that I could figure out? What else could I tell? Again, I know I've got parallel lines, and I see parallel lines cut by a transversal. I'm going to have alternate interior angles. Angles 5 and 7 are going to be the same, so I know that this is going to be 35 degrees also. All right. I could take a look at, again, parallel lines cut by a transversal. I'm going to have alternate interior angles. So angle 3 and the 40-degree angle will be the same. Okay. Then I could take a look at angle 2 down here. Well, if I know I've got a triangle, and this angle's 85, and this one is 40, and all three of these together should add up to 180, I can do some subtraction. 180 minus 85 minus 40 is going to tell me that angle 2 here is 55 degrees. Okay, and I'm going to take a look at what else. If I come up over here, these three angles make a straight line, right? Angle 3, 95 degrees, and angle 4. These come together to make a straight line. So I know all three of these angles. If I add all three of these together, I should get 180 degrees. So 180 minus 40 minus 95 is going to tell me that angle 4 here is 45 degrees. Okay, what do I have left? Okay, I've got angles 8 and 6. 8 and 6. Now, a couple different ways that I could do this. I don't have to find this angle here. However, I've got parallel lines cut by a transversal. I'm going to have alternate interior angles. So if I know that angle 4 is 45, I know that this one right here is going to be 45. Even though I don't have to find it, it helps me because I know that this angle, the 45-degree one, and angle 8 are on a straight line. They're supplementary. So I can do 180 minus 45, and that's going to tell me angle 8. And angle 8 is going to be 135 degrees. 180 minus 45. It's 135 degrees. Now the last thing, angle 6 up here, if I know this angle is 45, angle 7 is 35, then angle 6, again, it's just a matter of some adding and subtracting because I know all three of these together should equal 180. So if I take 180 minus 45 minus 35, I'm going to find out that angle 6 is 100 degrees. All right, on your papers, when you are solving for these degrees, please make sure that you use the degree symbol on there. That's the proper way to do it. We want to make sure that we've got those degree symbols there. All right, after that, what else did I have on here? Third piece of information. Let me go to the other sheet. Oh, actually before that, I wanted to take a look at these with you guys. This will be on the test. You will see something very similar to this on the test. Which congruent postulate would you use to prove the triangles are congruent? So this is where you need to memorize what type of congruence postulates we have, the orders of the letters, what works, what doesn't work. Now, take a look. We've got an angle here. We've got a side that's marked congruent, and we've got a side that's marked parallel. All right. Parallel is not the same as congruent, so do be careful about that. In this one, I've got angle, side, and I need something else. Because I have parallel lines cut by a transversal, I know that these angles will be alternate interior angles. They'll be congruent. So I've got angle, side, angle. And this other one follows the same pattern, angle, side, angle. So ASA is how I can prove that those two triangles are congruent. And number 5, most of you are getting the hang of this reflexive property. These two triangles share this side in the middle. So what I have here is angle, angle, side, angle, angle, side. The other side matches. So this is angle, angle, side. Number 6, be really careful. I got some homework papers that were saying these are vertical angles here. They're not. Vertical angles only occur when you've got two straight lines intersecting each other. For example, two straight lines like this. Okay. Then you're going to have vertical angles across from each other, either top and bottom here or left and right. These are not vertical angles. But take a look at what is marked. I've got a side, next immediate angle, next immediate side. This one follows the same pattern. Side, next immediate angle, next immediate side. This is side, angle, side. Ah, my goodness. Say one thing and write the other. Side, angle, side. Okay, down here at the bottom. Again, notice that both triangles share this line going right down the middle. I'm going to mark that, and then I can see I've got side, side, side for each of these. Side, side, side. Number 8. Number 8 was the most commonly missed one of all of these because I had a lot of people telling me this is side, side, side. First of all, you recognized that both triangles share that middle side, and that's good. But parallel does not mean the same thing as congruent. Parallel does not mean congruent. Okay? Parallel lines will help you find alternate interior angles. If I've got parallel lines and a line cutting through the transverse, I'm going to get alternate interior angles. Same thing with the top line, my transversal, and the bottom line, alternate interior angles. So this one is angle, side, angle. And the top triangle, angle, side, angle follows the same pattern. Angle, side, angle. Number 9, here we do have vertical angles, so I'm going to mark those. I've got vertical angles. I know that all right angles are congruent. So angle, angle, side, angle, angle, side. Okay. This worksheet did not have any examples of HL on it, but do recognize that for HL you would need to have right angles, you would need to have hypotenuse, and you would need to have one of the legs in each triangle. Okay, so watch for that as well. All right. All right, this one, you guys did pretty well on these. You will see something like this on the test where you've got two triangles, and I'll give you a piece of information. If angle A is congruent to angle T, and AC is congruent to TV, and what third piece of information, then the triangles are congruent by angle, side, angle. Mark everything up. Mark it up and do it in pencil, because then you can erase or use an erasable pen, and then you can use that for the next one if there are multiple problems like this. So if it says that A and T are congruent, I'm going to mark A and T is congruent. AC congruent to TV. AC congruent to TV. And then I need to know what other piece of information to say that these are congruent by angle, side, angle. So remember, this means angle, next immediate side, next immediate angle. Okay, angle, next immediate side. This would be my next immediate angle. Over here, angle, next immediate side. This would be my next immediate angle. So I would need to know that angle C is congruent to angle V. All right. So I'm just going to do that one example, but that's something, again, as an example, what you're going to see on the test. Let's see, then we had mid-segment was something that came up. So I want to take a look in your book. These are some of the homework problems that you guys have had to work on this week. So I just want to show this to you. This is an example of a problem that you could see something like this on the test, where you've got a triangle in here. You've got at least one mid-segment. I could draw in more. You've got ordered pairs, and I could ask you to find anything about the slope, like 4, 5, 6, and 7 are asking you to find the slope of the segments. So you would use the slope formula. Each of these ordered pairs has an x and a y, x and a y, x and a y. So you make sure that you're plugging your x and y's into the correct places in your formulas. So again, slope, be familiar with which formula is the slope formula and know how to plug the points in. If I ask you, let's say I don't give you this ordered pair here, and I ask you, what is the coordinate of the midpoint of side AB? You would use point A and point B and the midpoint formula to figure out what that midpoint is. Again, a mid-segment is going to connect the two midpoints together. Also, this is the mid-segment. The slope will be parallel. Slope will be the same. Parallel slopes are the same. Slopes will be the same. They will be parallel. This is your third side because the mid-segment does not touch this side of the triangle. Therefore, it's called the third side. Not only will these two be parallel, but the mid-segment will be half the length of this right here. Okay, so let's say I ask you for the length of the mid-segment. You can use the ordered pairs of the you can use the ordered pairs of the mid-segment. You can use D and E. You can plug those into your distance formula, and you can find the distance that way. If I don't tell you what the midpoints are, let's say you don't know what the ordered pairs are for D and E, but maybe you do know the ordered pairs for B and C. You can find the distance here. Use the distance formula with these two ordered pairs. Use the distance formula, find that length. Once you know this length, you'll know that the mid-segment is half of that. Okay, so this ended up being 20. Then your mid-segment would be 10, right? So that's how mid-segments work. Distance formula, midpoint formula, and slope formula are all going to come into play with these types of problems. Make sure that you understand how to use those formulas, that you recognize which formula goes with which type of problem. All right, and those were the main ideas I wanted to talk to you about. I feel like there was something else. Vertical angles. That was something else. Vertical angles. I want to show you that vertical angles, if we've got two triangles, This came up in the homework a surprising number of times. So if we've got two triangles and I've got A, B, C, D, E, and I want to say that vertical angles here are congruent, I need to name those vertical angles with 3 letters. Why? Because there's more than one possible angle at point C here. I cannot say that angle C is congruent to angle C. I don't know, am I talking about this angle here, this one up on top, the one on the right, the one on the bottom? I need to be specific. If I'm saying this angle is congruent to this one because they're vertical angles, then I need to say angle ACB is congruent to angle, I can say ECD, as long as C is in the middle of those names, all right, then I know what angles I'm talking about. But vertical angles, you have to name them with 3 letters. I got a lot of homework problems this past week where students were naming vertical angles with just 1 letter each, saying angle C is congruent to angle C. Vertical angles, you have to use 3 letters. And that goes for any time you've got angles in a spot where there's more than one possible angle there. Okay. So angle A, angle D, B, E, I can name those all with 1 letter each. That's not a problem. But if there's more than one possible angle at that point, I have to use 3 letters. Okay, so watch out for that. I think that about covers what we've got on the study guide. So if you were doing the extra credit review assignment, which is the review assignment in your book, make sure you're reading all of the instructions carefully. Make sure that you're taking a look at, on the assignment slip, the little hints that I gave you. There was a question asked about number 24 in that book review because they ask you to write a flow proof. I do not ask you to write a flow proof. In the extra instructions on the homework slip, I said on that one, please write a 2-column proof. When you're writing 2-column proofs, make sure that your columns are clear, that I can tell what's your statement column, what's your reason column. Okay, make sure that they line up. All right, so take a look at those things. If you have questions before the test, you can email me any questions before the test, but I wanted to make sure I go over some of this study guide information with you. All right, good luck. Do the best you can.